Hi, today we're gonna review a movie called The Last Shot. So, The Last Shot is the movie from the director of In Youth We Trust and Four Kings, both Four Kings 1 and Four Kings 2. So, this is a story about a gunman who wants to retire out of this business. So, the basic premise is just only that. So after I saw this movie, I rethink that this movie might be a little bit of a step down from the previous two movies from this director, which is Four Kings 2 and In Youth We Trust. Most of the parts, it kind of felt like flat a bit, flat out too much because this movie could have gone somewhere more, could have been like ambitious more. But in my opinion, it came out to be a rush production. You can really feel that some parts they could have pushed it all the way more, but they just don't. The action in this movie is decent, but this movie is not selling out its action that much. This movie sells the tension, the thriller. But if you look at gunmen stories, this might be similar to 1980s, 1990s stories more. It does not fit the tradition of modern age gunmen or killers. I think that this movie has a really good cast as well. Everyone did everything to carry this movie on their shoulders. Like the actor who is playing the main character, he was kind of quiet and subtle, and the other who is talkative a bit. Everyone puts in a really good performance, even the villains in this movie. Everyone does their job really well, and I appreciate it. Let's start with the drawbacks first. The drawbacks for this movie, I think, might be its pacing. Some parts it just came out like flat. They could have explored more of the missions that it takes to go kill this person. You really feel that some parts they could have leaned more into that. The action, I think that they could have gone all the way, but they just don't go all the way. It just felt like it's missing something in some parts as well. The plot, you might already seen this many, many times because you have seen this from like John Wick stuff, but this is not leaning on like John Wick style. This is leaning on the dramatic side of the story more. This movie is basically dramatic thriller more. Something like what you see from Ethan and Joel Coen films, like The Big Lebowski, or something like No Country for Old Men. This movie has some comedy scenes as well, but mostly it's used for like the character relationships with each other more. So it can make audiences feel empathy for these characters more throughout the story. Let's cut back to the pros. The pros, I think, is the soundtrack. The soundtrack of this movie is amazing. The songs is amazing. The sound design, I think, really did a good job with like the gunshots, the shots design. And then the other part that I think this director still did a really good job is the production design, the cinematography, which makes you feel like you're going back and watching a movie from like 20 years ago, 20 to 30 years ago. Something like what you see from like Four Kings 2 if you compare the color of this movie to that movie. But I think this movie is better than the first Four Kings. The first Four Kings, in my opinion, some parts felt like an experimental film. Why? Because some parts they just want to throw everything at you and then expect you to sympathize with the characters. This movie leans more on the storylines. It does not have that much of a storyline, but it could have been more like ambitious. This movie has some serious tone and hilarious stuff in this movie. Something that you might see from like Quentin Tarantino movies. There is some scenes where they want to reference like Pulp Fiction. They want to reference like No Country for Old Men. and more. However, in my opinion, it felt like this movie has been made for like many times now. A gunman story about doing his last job. Everyone has made this story before many times. So if I put this movie into an equation, I will put it in this chart right here. So to sum up all, I think that this movie is a decent movie. It's not at the level of Four Kings 2 and In Youth We Trust, but I think that the director still wants his unique style to be put on the screen. You feel the style that is unique. It does not feel like flat out like some Thai movies. This movie wants to be its own thing. This movie wants to be cinematic in some parts, and it's want to be thrilling and dramatic movie, similar to what you see in something like No Country for Old Men. But this movie might be a step down from his previous two films. So The Last Shot in cinemas in Thailand now and coming overseas soon. So don't forget to like and subscribe Doggy Watch channel.